Hello everyone. Hi, how are you guys doing today? Welcome to the BUFFYCAST Season 6. We're gonna be talking about Season 6 of Buffy here. Don't worry, you can probably look at the length of this video. It's not as crazy as what I did last season because that was a lot. But what we're gonna be doing this time is that I'm gonna be talking about certain topics and we're gonna be splitting those into each video. But we're gonna be starting here with my overall thoughts about Season 6. My Season 6 review, if you would like. And I'm probably gonna title this video something clickbaity, like Season 6 of Buffy the best season, something like that. I don't know. Just to get it out of the way, I really like this season. I really like this season. And I understand if you don't. And you can yell in the comment sections why you don't like it, and that's completely fine. Because the thing about this season, this season is not like any other season. This season is fucking crazy. It's nuts. Because Season 6 of Buffy is... Season 6 of Buffy is going for something so different from everything else because it is going for the idea of what if everyone had the worst day of their lives and that just happened every week? You know, every episode is just what if everything sucked? What if everything was the worst possible thing that could have happened? You know, that is the season. And if you are watching this show not to see that, if you're watching this show just for I don't know, escapism or just seeing your favorite characters, you like seeing your favorite characters every week and you're very fond of them, you're very attached to them, and you just want to have a good time enjoying yourself, seeing your favorite guys just run around, beat up some kind of monster, and then just being nice to each other. You're not gonna get that this season. This isn't something else. And when I say those things, I don't want it to come across as if I think that is a wrong way to watch the show or a silly way to watch the show. I don't think so. I think that's completely fine. But it's just not the experience that this season is offering. That is an experience that previous seasons were offering. You're watching season 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 actually, and even 5. Even if season 5 was going for stuff that were heavier, there were a lot of episodes in season 5 that I felt you could still feel that attachment to that character, and you would feel that connection, and you would feel this is a good experience because you care. And season 6 takes that attachment that you may have, takes you caring, and it just makes you suffer. It doesn't care. It just keeps going. Because if season 5 felt like it was going for something more meaningful, and it did, and it felt like a perfect ending for that reason, and it kind of was supposed to be. But season 6 is not going for that. Season 6 is things suck, period. You know, life sucks, period. And you just kind of have to deal with that. And if you don't want to deal with that because you're watching fiction, and sometimes fiction is not meant to do that, and that is what earlier seasons of Buffy maybe were doing a lot of the times. Not always, but a lot of the times. That's simply not going to be your cup of tea. And I understand that. And I think that that's fine. So when I heard, because I heard people talk about stuff in comment sections beforehand, and I remember people telling me oh, I hate season 6, and then some people being oh, I love season 6, and I think you're gonna love season 6, and I'm sitting here what makes season 6 different? And a lot of things makes it different, but in my personal feelings is that I loved it. I really enjoy season 6. And I think at the end of it, I have some reservations about it, that maybe I was really high on it up until a point, and then I kind of came down a little bit, but I still overall really enjoyed it. And to answer the question of, is season 6 my favorite season? I don't know, man. Maybe, if I wake up on a certain day and I feel a certain specific way, then season 6 is my favorite season for that day. You know, it's definitely in the contention for favorite season. I don't think I can possibly rank exactly what my favorite season is. I don't think I can do that. I really enjoy season 3, I really enjoy season 5, and I really enjoy season 6. Those are my 3 favorites right now. That's my top 3. But I don't know which one I would place over the other. And I kind of don't want to think about it that way, because I think it's counterproductive. But just so you know, I really liked it. I really liked it. And if you hated it, that's okay. I know exactly why you hate it, and that's completely fine. I have no issues with that whatsoever. You are right in feeling the way that you feel, because that is just what's gonna happen when you make a season like this. But okay, overall, what happens this season? Okay, so in this season, Buffy comes back to life after she died at the end of the previous season, and everything immediately sucks. And I do think that it fits thematically to have a Buffy come back to life and rise out of her grave, and immediately everything sucks. She has to, like, she's suffocating, she's digging out of her grave, and then she has to run around. People are trying to kill her friends, and then she has to fight, and she starts bleeding, and then she runs away, and then, like, Dawn is the only thing that kind of pulls her back, but even she doesn't really fully reach to her. And Buffy's extremely distant for a lot of the first couple episodes, because Buffy just came back from heaven, right? Like, she was at a place in which there was no, I forgot what the lyrics to her song was, but there was no conflict, there was no, like, suffering, no hatred, no pain. She was just in a state of permanent, like, content. Just everything is okay. My existence now is just a feeling of completion, and everything is fine. And suddenly it's not. She's not completed anymore. She has to come back and keep running around and fighting people and shit. She comes back and she has to worry about the fact that, like, her mom died and she has to take care of Dawn. So she kind of has to be a weird, like, step single mom. And now she has to worry about, like, payments and debt and shit. And it's just like, she quits university, which she was still attending to, apparently, because in season 5 she left her dorm, but apparently she was still, like, doing her studies sometimes when we weren't looking. But in season 6 she's just like, well, I have to quit because I have to get a job, because I have to take care of my sister, so I don't have time for this. I just need to get money. And then there was a conversation in one of these episodes that was had about Buffy just taking the cheap jobs that don't really give you that much money, because they don't ask for a lot of qualification, because Buffy cannot get qualifications, because she cannot get education, because she has to work, because she has to take care of Dawn. So Buffy, and she also has to be a slayer on top of all this, by the way. Like, that's been the ongoing struggle for the entirety of the show. So that's a lot to ask out of this poor girl who just came back to life, by the way. So you can't blame her for being distant. You can't blame her for just not fully clicking with anyone or anything yet. And a lot of the earlier episodes of the season, like maybe a full third, was spent on Buffy just being away, like mentally and emotionally being away. And eventually, she's trying to escape, not just mentally, but also physically. And then she starts going to Spike. And eventually we're gonna have to talk about that, but she goes to Spike, and Spike kind of provides this need to run away in a more than mental sense. It's also the physical sense. It's just like, we're just gonna let go and not worry about anything. We're just gonna fuck all day, and that's it. And Buffy's like, yeah, why not? Like that's exactly what she kind of craves at this moment, because she doesn't really thinking about life, thinking about people, thinking about problems, thinking about emotion, all that is way too taxing. It really is. It's way too overwhelming. So I don't blame her for also just being like, I just want to fucking nothing. Sure, that's okay. That's fine. And eventually she also kind of starts running away from Spike too, because Spike wants something more that isn't just that. Spike actually is like a romantic in that way. So he wants more, and Buffy is like, no. And then she makes an effort to actually pull away from that, because she actually doesn't want to take that step with Spike, because she is actually not interested in that way. She's using Spike just to have sex and just to not have to worry about everything else. Because Spike also is kind of an outcast. He's a misfit, and he doesn't like mingle with everyone else in the way that everyone else does. So it makes sense that Buffy just goes to the guy that nobody really likes and is kind of the outcast, and it's just like, well, I'm just gonna fuck him because I don't want to think and be associated with anything else, until that starts to loop back on itself and it becomes another thing that she has to worry about, and then she's like, I don't want to deal with that. In a way, Buffy's like struggle, like Buffy struggles every season, because Buffy is that character. Buffy Summers the character, I mean. Buffy Summers struggles every season because that is kind of what the show is. It's just Buffy is dealing with certain thing. You know, Buffy's dealing with X. Every episode, X is something different. But I think in some ways that the struggle that she goes through in this season specifically might be the biggest struggle she's ever faced. And it is also there's something that makes me the most proud of her, honestly, because like even though she was more heroic in other seasons, maybe like she literally died at the end of season 5 to save everybody. Like she went out like Jesus at the end of season 5. So I don't think she can like top that in terms of like how heroic or how nice and poetic it might be. But in season 6, I feel like her struggle is so much greater, because in season 6 she's struggling to give a shit because she's running away because everything hurts so much, you know? And that is something that is way more real. And I maybe that is something more indicative of me specifically, you know? And maybe some other people that watch the show. And maybe a lot of people who watch the show having had experiences or not experiences, but like stages in their life in which they felt this exact way, because maybe they were lucky. They were lucky not to have those things. And it's okay if you didn't. That's actually a very good thing. But a lot of us actually have had patches in our lives in which we were just running away. We didn't have to we didn't want to deal with anything. We didn't want to think about anything because everything was so overwhelming and so painful that it was just a thing of like, I just want to disappear. You know, I just want to vanish. I just don't want to exist anymore. And that is what Buffy's going through in season 6. And that is something that I find extremely compelling. And that is what makes me feel the most proud of her in this season. Because we actually get to see across the entire season how she is slowly going from I just don't want to be here, I don't care, to I have to care. And she like breaks, like the scene when she breaks down crying in front of Tara and being like, please don't forgive me. I think that was the line. Like that was the moment that I was like, okay, like I'm really into this, and I feel really bad for her. It really reminded me of Faith. It really did. And for those of you who may be new to the channel, Faith was my favorite character in all of Buffy. Still is. I think my favorite scenes in all of Buffy are Faith scenes in Who Are You, and then in the Angel episode that came after that. I forgot the name of that Angel episode, but when she like breaks down, essentially does the same thing. She breaks down crying while trying to punch and kill Angel, and then you get to see how like she's fighting him, but then at a certain point she's not fighting anymore. She's just flailing, and then she just starts screaming, please kill me. And then I'm just like, oh my god, like Faith's so good. And in this season, in that episode, and I said it close enough, welcome back Faith. That's how I felt about Buffy. And that really sold me on it. But after that scene, after that episode, she starts to come back around a little bit more. And the thing is that Buffy sees herself in that moment as someone that is so vile because she feels guilty over the fact that she's taking advantage of Spike, and also she's ignoring everything and everyone else because she just doesn't have it in her to be back as a human and care about things anymore. And she feels bad about those things. But like, good news, Buffy, because the fact that you're breaking down crying like this means that you care, right? And that is the step of logic that she doesn't really take in that moment. But we can see it. We can see how much she cares, because otherwise she wouldn't be suffering in the way that she's suffering in that scene. And that is something that's very beautiful to see. And it's something that's very human. And I think that really cements the moment in which like Buffy becomes more human, and then she starts to pull back a little and return to us in a way. And that is something that actually takes Buffy a long time. Like even after that, even during the back half of the season where she feels a lot more human and a lot more connected to the world, she still has a couple of moments in which it's clear that she's not fully there yet. Which is why at the end of the season, I really like that she has a moment with Dawn in which she's thankful that the world didn't end. And Dawn doesn't really fully know if she's crying because the world didn't end, or because because she is sad or happy that the world didn't end. Like she defaults to sad, and then she's like, wait, are those tears of joy? And then Buffy's like, yeah, why wouldn't they be? Do you think I wanted everything to just vanish, disappear? And then Donna's like, wait, you didn't? And it's this thing of like, in that moment, Buffy realizes, and I have to give it to Sarah Michelle Gellar, because I remember watching that scene, and in that scene, Sarah Michelle Gellar had this expression of like realization, like it's dawning on her, pun intended. It's dawning on her that like Buffy has been so gone this season that not even her sister knew if she gave a shit anymore. And it's the thing of like Buffy, of course Buffy gives a shit. She's crying and she's like, of course I do. But she's not showing that to anybody else. And it's that moment in which like she realizes that in Dawn and she's like, oh Dawn, like I'm sorry. And then she goes onto this like kind of end of season like monologue where she's like, I'm going to show you the world. You know, I've been trying to protect you from it. What I should be doing is that I should be showing you the world. And the thing is that thematically that fits into the season because the season has been about the world just sucks. Really. That is what the season has been. Like season 6 is just about everything being like, okay, season 5 was about the human experience and how it might be painful, but it is ultimately worth it. Season 6 is about just like, man, everything just sucks, doesn't it? And it's just like, yeah, like living sucks. Like not the concept of being alive, but rather the experience of living in the modern world, in modern society with human baggage. Because your feelings hurt, everything is overwhelming, your relationships are overwhelming, you have to worry about a job, you have to worry about finances, you have to worry about housing, you have to worry about your sister, like your relation, like everything is just so much. And Buffy's just like, I can't. And I like that at the end, she's like, actually, instead of just being overwhelmed by everything and just everything sucks, everything hurts, you know what? Let's actually seek out the good things, you know, together. Instead of just like protecting you from the world because the world is hostile, instead, you know what? I'm going to hold your hand and we're going to walk into it and we're going to see what's ahead and we're going to enjoy it. It's this thing of like, yeah, everything might be bad, but if you don't actually go out and seek out the good things, then you're never going to run into them, maybe. So we're going to do that. We're going to move ahead. We're going to enjoy life together. Instead of just me being like, the world sucks. Don't get close to Dawn. You know, it's just like, no, I'm going to hold your hand and we're going to venture forth. And it might be uncertain, but it could be good. And let's just focus on that. Let's just focus on what we can do to make it good. Instead of, everything being miserable. So that's nice. That's a nice ending. That is a much nicer ending than I was expecting, but I think it makes sense and I like it. And I also really like, and this is the reason why I said Buffy wasn't super heroic this season necessarily. I like that she didn't solve the problem at the end. I really like that she didn't. She was trapped in a hole with Dawn. In a grave, I suppose. And I was informed. It's something I didn't mention, but somebody pointed out on Patreon that was like, she's literally coming out of her grave at the end with Dawn. And I'm sitting here like, that sounds cool, but I don't know what to make of it, you know? Like, she's being reborn again, this time for real, you know? The fact that when you are reborn while focusing on your relationships and with other people and thinking about, you know, the world is like, okay, like she was in the first episode, she was born alone in the middle of the night while suffocating and digging out of her own grave. But in the final episode, she's being reborn, coming out of her grave with her sister and not thinking about the world sucking, but rather thinking about we're going to enjoy our time together in the middle of like daylight, you know? Okay, that's a different parallel we can draw there. That I think it's much nicer and I think it applies better. So yeah, let's go with that. But I do think that works really well. And I do really like that. And I do like that she didn't save the day. Because honestly, I'm fucking tired of Buffy saving the day every time. Like, I like Buffy as a character more than I like Buffy as a superhero. Because Buffy as a superhero is uninteresting to me. I think her status as a superhero is a great way to actually create troubles that then she has to face. It is a great way of creating conflict here. But her just punching demons and vampires and shit, like, that is the least interesting part of the character to me. Like, I don't care about that. So the fact that she's always the one that has to do it, I'm like, that sounds boring to me. Because it's literally, she walks in, she kicks the shit out of someone, and then, okay, we resolve the conflict on that side. And we have done that less and less as time has gone on. But I do like that for the end of the season, she doesn't fix the problem. She's just trapped in a hole talking to Dawn, and that's it. And the person who solves the problem is actually Xander. And I do like that it was Xander. Not because I like Xander, but because it makes so much sense that it's Xander, the one that actually gives a shit and cares about Willow. And he's the one that is going to be like, I have to go and figure this out and just talk to my best friend. Like, we're best friends. We've been together our whole lives. Like, I have to go talk to her. And it's the thing of, like, if the world's gonna end, then fuck it. Okay, let it end. But I'm not gonna let the world end without being there with my best friend. You know, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die here next to you. Because like if I'm gonna go out, I wouldn't want to go out any other way. That's so good. It's so good, and I really like that. I really, really like that. And okay, season 6. I feel like if there are any frustrations to be had with season, there are actually. I don't know why I'm speaking in hypotheticals. There are reasons to be frustrated with season 6. Depending on what person you are, there are different things to be frustrated with in season 6, but a lot of them overlap. But okay, I'm going to be talking again from my personal point of view, my personal perspective. I am someone who I really enjoy conflict. And I really enjoy how interesting everything becomes when things are complex. And I really like to see characters navigate through that. That is just very compelling to me. And I like to see the heightened emotion. I like to see the conflict. And I like to see how human it all is. I think that Buffy at times has been more, maybe a little bit more formulaic in that it has developed a formula. And then it has iterated on that like a bunch of times. And it had settled comfortably in that, and then every now and then they break it. Then it has tried to change in what stories it wants to tell. And I think season 6 is something that is just so completely different from everything else. I think season 5 was already trying to be different, and it was, largely, because it was so much more serious. But season 6 is on a different planet. It's just like, it's crazy how serious and how complex everything is. And that is something that I appreciate. And I've said this before, but I also think that another thing that Buffy does, generally, is that it tries to be kind of quirky, and it tries to be kind of funny, and it tries to be kind of clever. And for a lot of people, that is something that maybe you find very endearing and charming and enjoyable and funny even. And that's okay. I would never want to take that away from anyone else. But for me personally, I am not that interested. And maybe I can blame it on Avengers 2012 and everything that happened afterwards, which is Joss Whedon's fault because he wrote that movie. So it's just an extension of Buffy. But maybe when you watch that originally, this is just the way Buffy is, and it's unique and it's quirky. But because I am watching this in the year of our Lord 2026, the media landscape is a little bit different, and it is a little bit more annoying. I don't think it's annoying. But a little bit, you know, it's a little bit more tiring than it was before, because if you're watching this in 2001, this is original and it's really cool. I'm watching this 25 years into the future. It's not the same. And that is not the show's fault. That is just the way media has evolved. And that's not even Joss Whedon's fault, because he wrote that movie, he wrote Avengers 2012, and then every other movie that came afterwards from Marvel is trying to imitate it, and every other movie is trying to imitate Marvel, and every show is trying to imitate Marvel, because it's what's selling the most. So now we're all fucked in the future. Writing just kind of sucks. But the thing is that that's not even Joss Whedon's fault necessarily. He just wrote that movie in the way that he writes things, and then everybody copied his homework because the movie was too good. So yeah, it's just the way things have evolved that feel a little... It kind of takes away from the show a little bit for me. And that is unfortunate. But that is to say that personally, what I'm watching the show for is how complex things get and how interesting all these things are. And I get a lot of that with season 6. Season 6 is nothing but that. I love season 6 for that reason. I'm not watching this for like the joy of seeing Buffy just beat someone up and just making funny one-liners. Like, that's not what I'm here for. And I'm not here to watch these characters just have a fun, nice resolution in every episode. And it's very comfortable in the way that a lot of previous seasons have run. Season 6 is different, and that's why I like it, because every episode just made me feel fucking miserable. And I suppose that is the direction we're going here, because I said this before. I said it like, I think like I don't know, a quarter of the season in. I was like, this season makes me feel fucking miserable. Like, the experience of watching it is miserable. I don't want to look at it. But I really like it because it makes for amazing discussion. And that's something I said early on in the season, and people were like, yes, that is exactly what's going on with this season. This season is not a season that you necessarily enjoy watching. But it is a season that you kind of sit there and you think about it and you're like, damn, that's it's really interesting what's happening with this character. You know, it's really interesting what's happening with this thing. And that is what I'm here for, actually. Like, it's funny because like when I release my videos, like I can actually see the analytics and I can see the information of how they were received and stuff, and I can see what people watch in those videos. So I can actually see what people tune in for, and I can see the parts that people replay a lot, and it's just the reaction. It really is just the reaction. Like, a lot of people show up to these videos and they just watch my reaction to the episode and then they stop. And then there's like 40 minutes left of the video left to go. And I don't blame anyone for that. That's fine. But it's this thing of like, people really would just want to see my reaction to it. And I understand that's what the video is. But I also make this video so I can talk about them, right? That is something I really enjoy. I really enjoy discussing these episodes because I think that there's a lot to say. And they are very interesting, and I like them a lot. And that is what the season is, right? Like, this season is, to me, not a season that I enjoyed watching. And I probably won't watch it ever again. Like, I might rewatch the show at some point, but I don't know if I'm going to watch this season. Maybe I'll watch it up until season 5, because that is kind of a perfect ending. But season 6, I don't know if I'll rewatch it. I certainly won't rewatch it in full, because there are certain episodes that I'm just like, that just made me feel sad, and I don't want to look at it, you know? But I loved it nonetheless, because I exited the season feeling like I just went through an ordeal. It was rough, but that gives me an appreciation for it that feels a lot more human. And it's weird because like that's what season 5 was going for. And this is the thing that I always get. I've said this like a little bit before, but season 6 is so interesting because it's coming right after 5, and 5 is doing the same thing season 6 is doing, but like different. Because season 5 is like the human experience can be really painful, but it is ultimately worth it. And season 6 is just like the human experience sucks, period, right? And I think that season 5 is more concerned with the experience of being human, while season 6 is more concerned with the world is hostile. The world is bad, and it sucks, and it hurts. And what do you do in it? You just suffer, okay? Cope. Like, that's season 6. But there's a specific angle that you can look at them, and you can be like, that's the same idea. It's not. But it's some of the nuances is what makes the difference, and without them, they feel very similar. Because season 5 really made Buffy suffer, but season 6 really made Buffy suffer. It made everyone suffer, and at a certain point, you're sitting there thinking like, how different is it? And if you don't look at the nuances, it's just like, okay, everyone suffers. What is the thing that is different between these two? And what's different to me is that season 5 is concerned with telling you that you may suffer, but those bad feelings are ultimately worth it because of all the good things that you have. Season 6 is like living in the world, is having to deal with a lot of these practicalities that make it really, really difficult for you to just for you to cope with. Because I think that's part of the reason why the antagonists for this season are 3 idiots who don't really matter, right? It's just Jonathan, Warren, and Andrew. And they don't matter, right? Like, they are the main antagonists, but they're really not, because they don't fucking matter. And that is something that I really appreciate. Because in season 5, like, we're dealing with, like, the end of the world and Glory, who's a god and shit. And it's just like, that is a problem we have to care for, and we do. But with season 6... it's just like the scope is so much narrower. It's just like we're not dealing with any of those like world-threatening events anymore. We're not dealing with gods and shit. We're dealing with 3 stupid nerds who just want to get money and are very extremely creepy, and not just creepy, more than that, towards women. You know, especially Warren. Goddamn. But that's it. Like, the scope is so much narrower, and that is something that I really appreciate, and that it allows for the conflict of the season to just be the lives of these characters. Like, Buffy has to deal with like what was it, like a child services like social worker. Like that was a struggle that we had to face, you know. We were dealing with our relationship drama, abusive relationships. Your friend has a drug addiction, you know? Like that is what we're dealing with this season. We're dealing with like finances, and your sibling is just like stealing shit. She's a kleptomaniac. Like that's it. And that is so much more real than any of the previous struggles that were grander in scope, but these are something that is so much more connecting with what it means to be human, actually, and that is why I like them a lot. Now, my one thing about this season, like after the season ended, I have one complaint. I don't know if I would call it a complaint, it's just, or maybe nitpick, but it is the one thing that maybe drags down the season a little bit. I still really like it, but the season would be perfect if it hadn't been for this one thing. And this one thing is, everyone suffered too much. And what I mean by that is that I kind of mentioned this already, but it felt like every episode was just the worst day of everyone's lives. And that's actually what happened. Because I was told that I think I saw in an interview, somebody sent it to me, that was like the idea, or maybe it was someone that just straight up told me this. I don't remember. It was a little bit ago. But the idea for season 6 was apparently Mr. Whedon, the boss man, approached everybody and was just like at the writing room. It was just like, okay, this is the idea for the season. Write the worst day of your life. Write what would be the worst day of your life, and that's every episode, right? Like, that is what we're going for this season. And then that's what they did. And it really feels that way. It really feels that way. And that's why it's so fucking miserable to watch. And that's why a lot of you might not have enjoyed it. I understand that that's okay. Then that is what makes it so interesting. But to me, personally, I feel like watching 22 episodes in a row of just, like, bad shit happening, with, like, maybe one or two exceptions. Like, there was, like, the musical episode in there that was fun. But, like, generally speaking, there's, like, 20 episodes in a row of just, like, everything sucks. And then that's it. You know, deal with it. And I'm just sitting here, like, I feel like we needed, like, one or two less tragedies to occur. You know? One or two less. Any two. I don't care which one. It's just like a little bit of a breathing room. A tiny bit. Just like as Mitch, a crumb of a breathing room. Because what ends up occurring to me, and I'm not saying this from the perspective of like, oh, I wanted to suffer less. No, I want to suffer more, actually. But the thing is that if you do it too much, it stops feeling like tragedy and it starts feeling like comedy. And that is what I'm saying. And follow me on this. Like, let's hear me out. Season 6 kind of feels like a comedy from a certain angle, from a specific certain angle, and that is the angle of like, imagine you're binging all of season 6, and if you binge all of season 6, I want to hear your thoughts on this, because imagine you binge all 22 episodes in a row, and like at a certain point, you have to be like, this is unrealistic in how much suffering is going on. In how many struggles, how much pain is going on is a lot. It's to the point that it's cartoonish even, you know? I made this metaphor. In a previous video at the end of the season, I think. And it's a shit metaphor, but I keep thinking about it because it really feels that way. And it's just like, it feels like I'm just walking, I'm walking down a yard or something. And then I step on a rake. And I know that when you say step on a rake, it usually is you lay down the rake and it's your fault that you step on it. But like, imagine that you're just walking and then you step on a rake and it hits you and you're like, fuck, that hurt. And then you're like, okay, I'm not going to go this way. And then you turn around and then you step on another rake and it hits you and it hurts. And you're like, damn, okay. And then you do it again. And then you do that 20 more times. And at a certain point, you would look down and realize that the entire ground is covered in rakes. There's no floor anymore. It's just rakes for you to step on. And you're like, you're not thinking about the pain that the rake is inflicted on you. Maybe a little bit. But you're looking at that and you're like, who left all these rakes here? Like, why is the floor covered in rakes? What kind of bullshit is this? And that is kind of the impression I had at the end of season 6. After episode 19, after seeing Red, I kept thinking about it and I was like, was that too much? Was that too much? And I felt like it was, actually. And then episode 20 and 21 kind of feel that way as well. But 19 is really where it ends. 19 is really when the streak of suffering is just nonstop, and then it has this like massive cap. But it really felt like I looked down and I realized that like, yeah, it's all rakes here, or I don't know, I'm standing on a minefield and it's just like, why is there just mines here? There's no ground anymore. It's just rakes. And at that point, I don't feel bad. I'm overwhelmed with the thought of like, why? Who did this? You know? I'm not thinking about it in terms of like, man, that hurt me and I feel really bad. I'm thinking about it from like, why would you do this? Like, this is silly, honestly. Like, I'm looking at the ground and it's silly how much of this is just out here. And that's season 6 to me a little bit. Like, I feel like I love season 6 with all my heart. And I thought I was so ready to call it like my definitive favorite season. And then after seeing Red, I felt like we pushed it a little too far. And what's funny is that I like that episode, actually. I do. I do. Okay? I do. And that might sound weird to say, but I actually do like seeing Red. I have some reservations about it, but I do like it. But I also feel like that was like maybe going one step too far, to the point that it made me just feel like, what am I watching? Like, I think that was when somebody told me that. I don't know why I started thinking about that The Killer's lyric when they said that. But I think that is when somebody told me that the idea for the season was, hey, write the worst day of your life every episode. Because at that point, it becomes clear to me. It becomes so clear to me that it's just like, why are we doing this? And it's because of that. Because that is the idea, that is the conceit. And then again, that is when you look at the floor and you realize it's all rakes. And I think that the story would have been better if there had been less rakes, so that every now and then I would be able to like walk a little bit and then I step on it again and then it hits me and I'm like, oh fuck, and then it hurts again, rather than just have me confused looking at the floor because it's all rakes. And what I mean by that is that I'm just looking at the writer's room and being like, why are y'all doing that? And it's like, oh, because we were told to write the worst shit possible. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that. But that kind of takes me away from the show, right? It takes me into the writer's room. And I think that if you keep me immersed in the show, it would be better. Even though I always try to look outside of the show. But I think that if you actually play to keep me invested in the show, to keep me, not invested, but immersed, which also keeps me invested in the show, it would be better. And I think that you overplayed your hand a little bit too much, to the point where I'm just sitting here like, this is too much. I have to question, what are we doing? And it would be better if I didn't question it. I think that is my one thing that I would say about season 6 that maybe was a little bad for me personally. And it was the fact that it was too much. Not because I suffered too much, but because it was so often that it made me feel weird. And it made me feel like I needed to question, why are we suffering so much? And it was because the writer's room just had a whiteboard that just said suffer in all caps, underlined twice. And that was the idea for the season. and that is something that I'm looking at that and I'm like, okay. Yeah, sure, you can do that, but I feel weird about it. I feel like it would have been better if I hadn't walked out into the writer's room. I would have just stayed watching the show. So that's the one thing about season 6 I feel like I would say. But that is maybe just me, right? Like, I want to be clear when I say these things. It's that, oh, this is subjective. This is just me. And you should understand that all I'm saying is subjective, because like, I feel like half the people watching this video hate season 6. And that's fine. I don't blame anyone who feels that way. Because after watching Seeing Red, I get it. You know, I get it. You hated it. That's fine. I hated it too when I watched it. You know, I hated that episode. I felt so bad. You can actually see it in that video. I should read the comments in that. Now that we're over, maybe I can look at the comments of that video a little bit. I do feel maybe a little bit bad because that episode did have a couple of dislikes, but I think generally speaking, people liked it. And I think I looked at like 2 comments before, but I could look at them now. Because there was one that was like, bro went through like the 5 stages of grief, like immediately after the episode ended. And I'm like, I feel like I invented new stages of grief. You know, I feel like I went through just, I said something that was like, weren't fucking cooked. and someone was like, you're not wrong. No one told this guy ahead of time to check the intro for this episode. People told me, I just forgot. And I did check it out after the episode ended because I remembered a little bit too late. But the thing is that even if I look at the intro, I suppose like I should. I'm going to talk about that here. I'm going to be real with you guys. I'm going to be straight honest with y'all. You can add or take away a person from the intro credits, and I would not be able to tell who came in or who left. I would not. I'm pretty sure I watched the intro and Tara showed up and I was like, yeah, Tara's always been there. I remember that at a certain point, somebody told me that, Tara didn't want to be, wasn't sure she wanted to be in the intro because she wasn't sure how long she wanted to stay. And I think that was in season 4. And in my head, I'm like, oh, she's definitely joined the intro by now. So I'm pretty sure I saw her and I was just like, that's normal. So it's not that I didn't check out the intro. It's that I'm not paying that close enough attention to the intro. Like, to be real with you, to be honest with y'all, I'm not paying that close attention to the intro. And if somebody told me, pay attention to who is or who isn't in the intro, that would have been more suspicious. So I'm glad that nobody did. People just told me like, oh, the intro might be different. And then I forgot. But if somebody told me like a specific things, it would have been worse. Comment section is rough. Wow. Okay, I'm not going to look at them. Thank you, person who said comment section is rough. I'm not going to look at it. Because I said I wasn't going to do it in the video. I remember vividly being like, there's going to be like paragraphs of Spike scores, and I don't want to look at it. So I'm glad that somebody said the comment section is rough. Wow. Whoever that was, I think it was like Jenna or something. I think that's the username I read. Jenna something. Thank you for saying that. So I wouldn't have to look at the comment section. So I'm not going to do that. Thank you for keeping me safe. I really appreciate that. I don't think that was your intention, but I really appreciate it nonetheless. But seeing red to me felt like this that we're just going off the rails. We're going off the deep end, and it felt like a step too far. And that's not to say that I don't see merit in that episode, because I do. I just feel like you had to like let go of the gas a little bit, less tragedies. Because like even the previous episode was like Xander seeing that Anya was fucking Spike and that drama's going on. And then previous to that was the fact that, you know, he left her at the altar. And then previous to that is like Willow and Tara are in bad terms and maybe slowly coming along together. Anya hates the fact that Dawn is stealing. Like Buffy's trauma, so much is going on this season in every episode. It just doesn't let go. And I feel like if you wanted it to hit harder in a manner that was hurtful, it would have been better if you had just let me feel safe and comfortable for like, I don't know, man, 3 episodes. That's all I'm asking for. Just 3 episodes. Because I feel like when I was watching Seeing Red and I watched 1, Buffy almost get raped, and 2, Tara just die in a manner that was so awful, honestly. Like, I didn't feel sad. I just felt upset. And I didn't know what. I just felt a general feeling of upsetting. And I was just walking in circles in my head. I was just like, no. Fuck this, you know, like I didn't want to deal with it, you know. And I guess if you wanted that reaction out of your audience, I guess you got it, but that makes me feel less invested into the emotional core of it. And I think that you probably wanted me to feel more invested in the emotional core of it in order for the ending to hit better. That's what I think. In order to be more sad over the death of Tara, because I wanted to be. And that's the thing, is that I want to be more sad over the fact that Tara's dead, and I didn't get to feel that way, because it just was upsetting instead of sad. And then the next episode, it's upsetting instead of sad, because Willow, instead of mourning Tara, she just goes and decides, I'm gonna kill Warren. So I have to spend an entire episode thinking about Warren instead of Tara. And then the episode after that, I have to spend an entire episode thinking about Jonathan and Andrew instead of Tara. And I'm thinking about Willow too at this point, because everyone's concerned about Willow. And then the final episode, I'm thinking about Willow and the end of the world instead of Tara. Like we're not talking about Tara at all. Like, Tara died and we spent 0 time mourning Tara. And that is the part that to me feels like maybe if I wanted to feel more emotionally connected to it, then we should have done that. But maybe that's not what the season wanted to go for. And that's okay, but it just made me feel upset when it happened. And then after that, it felt like there was no tact to it. And I do have to say, I did read one comment on Patreon, you know. By the way, if you're upset that I'm not reading your comments on YouTube, I read them on Patreon, because those are way safer for me to read. They are, generally speaking, more polite and informative. So that's nice. But I remember somebody on Patreon was mentioning how, I'm going to paraphrase here, but it was the idea that the death of Tara felt like it's a betrayal of your trust. And I don't know if this is something they figured out themselves, it's something that the fandom kind of repeats, something that happens in fandom a lot of the time, or if it's something that was exclusively stated by somebody who worked on the show. But it feels like a betrayal of your trust was the idea that they were talking about. And I was sitting here reading that, and I was like, it does feel that way a little bit, but I don't know if that is the thing that to me matters. Because and I suppose going to talk about the death of Tara here. What I like about the death of Tara, and it's something that it didn't click for me initially, but now that I've had some time to think about it, I think it's something that I like. And I don't know if it's intentional, but I like it. And it's that the death of Tara was completely accidental. It was. Like, Warren shot and killed Tara, but that was an accidental shot. It was a silly ass shot too, because he fired at Buffy and then he like waved his gun around and then he fired again for some reason into like a random angle up in the sky that just happened to hit Tara. Tara just happened to be standing there. And by the way, like I said, the angle makes no sense that she would have been shot. She was nowhere even close to the window. And the angle that the bullet is coming from the bottom to the up, like it makes no sense. She would have had to had her back to the window. Like, she would have had to be touching the window with her back in order to hit her. For like a bullet that came from like the lower ground to the second floor, because I'm pretty sure she was in the second floor. Like, I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure it's second floor. It makes no sense to hit her, but I like it because like Warren didn't even know that he killed Tara. He didn't even know what he caused. And I like it a lot because what is the theme of this season? Life sucks. Shit just sucks, man. And I like that Tara's death is also a part of that. It's part of just like sometimes life just sucks. It wasn't intentional, completely accidental. It actually defies all physics, but it just happened. And there was no fanfare. There was no like closure. Tara's last words were "your shirt," which I love, by the way, because like Tara's last words being "your shirt" is like her worrying about Willow on like a very small sense before thinking about herself. It is showing Tara in a moment of like maybe she felt a pang, maybe she felt something, or maybe she didn't, but she saw Willow get sprayed and she's like, "Oh, your shirt." And then she just falls and dies. So like Tara's reaction is first to care about someone else. That I love Tara. She's so good. Okay. But it's very, very tragic and it hurts a lot, but there was like no closure to it. You know, like she didn't die in Willow's arms, like delivering some final, like, "I love you" or whatever. She died when she hit the floor and then Willow held her dead body. Right. And it was so out of nowhere. They were happy and then they weren't. She just died entirely by accident, and it was in a manner that was so final. And it's so sudden. And like this person said, it's a betrayal of your trust, because like while Joyce's death felt sudden, it was also something that you could see coming because you were kind of ready for it. You were ready for her to die before when she went into surgery, and you were also kind of just sitting there waiting to see if she was fully out of cancer, because she was given surgery for it, but like cancer is tricky like that, you know, and her situation with cancer was one in which like, yeah, like, I don't know, it could happen. Like there's a YouTuber I follow who got cancer last year. And then he went into chemo and he went into treatment, and then they told him like, "You're good, like you're done, like you're cancer free." And then he was so happy and excited, he made like this marathon of streaming, and I was there, and we were all celebrating the fact that he was cancer free. And then like 2 months later, he was like, "Hey, I got cancer again." Like it came back. So it's this thing of like, yeah, cancer's tricky like that. Like, and that YouTuber is still kicking, by the way. Like, he's still around, and I think he's still in treatment, and I hope that everything goes well for him. Shout outs to Simo. But cancer's tricky like that. And it's a thing of like, with Joyce, you're kind of ready for that to maybe happen, and then it does happen. So you don't feel betrayed by it. You feel like, okay, this makes sense. Then we spend an entire episode just dealing with that. But Tara's death is like the opposite. You're not expecting it to happen because it's so fucking sudden. It makes no sense for it to happen. Like, it really doesn't. Like, it makes zero sense. It feels almost like fate. It feels like fate. And that is something that I actually kind of like. It's been 0 days since I brought up JoJo, but fate is a big deal in JoJo. It's the concept of like, it's this idea of like, something is gonna happen and you're gonna die. And that's set in stone. Like, you really can't change that. And even if you try to change it, it's gonna happen anyway. And it's this thing of like Tara just dies in a manner that makes no sense, but it feels like if there's a higher entity like God, just he was just like, it's your time, you have to go, you know, like you're playing D&D with your friends at DDM, it's just like if rocks falls on you, you're dead, you know, just like fuck you, you're dead. God decided that you're gone. And that's kind of what Tara's death feels like to me. And that's actually kind of a good thing. Because if the season is about, you know, just life sucking, everything sucks and everything hurts, then yeah, I guess that's the kind of shit that would happen, wouldn't it? You know? And I suppose that is the difference between season 5 and season 6, is that season 5 is like, yeah, Joyce died, but it wasn't that sudden. It was sudden enough to make you hurt, but it wasn't something that you weren't expecting. But season 6 is like, oh yeah, everything just hurts and it sucks and it's bad. Just randomly, you're just standing around, you're being happy with your girlfriend, and then you just get shot and die, and that's it. It's so bleak, but it's also very real. Like, there's no poetry, there's no like closure, there's nothing. It's just like, yeah, things just kind of happen, and there you go. And that is something that I kind of like about season 6. I don't necessarily think that the cruelty of it is something that is to be praised for, you know? Or like what this person said, like a betrayal of the audience. I don't think that's something that I necessarily care about. And I don't know if that's true. But I do think that it fits within the idea of season 6 just being about like, yeah, life just kind of sucks sometimes. And it's like, yeah, sometimes you just get shot and die. And there you go. You have to deal with that. That is something that has actually kind of helped me feel better about Tara's death. Personally, like in my own time thinking about it, because I have time with this. I am a JoJo fan, like I said. Like there's a lot of like, you know, like sometimes you just die and that's set in stone, and Tara's death maybe feels that way a little bit, you know? But if there's something that I learned reading Sleeping Slaves, is that just because you're gonna die doesn't mean that the time before that didn't matter. And I hope that moving into season 7, we spend a lot of time reminiscing about Tara, maybe. That would make me happy. I would like to see some stuff about like Willow trying to change. And she keeps thinking back to Tara and what Tara was like and what Tara wanted. And deciding to go in that direction while thinking about Tara. It's this thing of like, you know, Tara mattered. That's what I would like to see. And that's just because I like Tara. But still, I think that would be nice. Because the thing to me is that if season 6 feels so bleak sometimes, especially that episode scene Red, it's so bleak. But at the end of the day, the idea of season 6 at the ending feels like, you know, life sucks and the world sucks and everything just sucks sometimes and it hurts. But like at the end of the day, you kind of have to just embrace it. You kind of have to embrace that this is the way the world is. And guess what? Maybe you can hold your sister's hand and you can go out together and have a nice evening or something, you know? Like you can go and for I don't know, for a coffee or whatever, you know? And that's something that maybe I'm reading too much into it, but when Buffy's talking about like, instead of protecting you from the world, we're gonna go see it together, that's what I'm thinking. Is the idea of like, instead of just sitting in our rooms being fucking miserable because everything sucks, instead let's just stick together and let's just decide, hey, we're gonna go out and we're gonna see what's outside, and we don't know what's gonna come, but hey, it might be good, you know? And that is something that maybe rings a little bit true also with them modern way of things in the 2020s, in which like I feel like we have become a lot more isolated. And I was reading about this the other day, and it's this thing of like, you know, it's nice to have places in which you could just go out and just enjoy an afternoon or something, doing something outside and maybe meeting people, who knows, like you could go to a library and you could just enjoy your time reading a book there, and it's a place and there's people and everyone's just kind of reading, and that's fine. I like Magic the Gathering, and I wish I had a local place to go and play that. I was thinking that maybe I would, you know, maybe I could go to a local like game shop and just play cards, and I could run into other people that just want to play cards, and we can play cards together. And that sounds like a nice idea. And that is just you actively choosing to go out there and enjoying life, enjoying the world, instead of just hiding from it because everything is painful and scary. It's like, no. Everything is gonna be painful and scary if you only focus on like the responsibilities and the overwhelming like reality of it all. And instead, you could just go and make your own reality. You could choose to live a better life by experiencing the world in a broader sense, rather than just cowering in a corner. So I think that season 6 ultimately like tries to do something that feels a little better. But I think the way it goes about it is that it goes through like 20 episodes of just the most miserable thing you can imagine. And I don't know how I feel about that, because I feel like at a certain point, like I said, it feels too much. It almost feels cruel. And I understand that a lot of people felt like it was just being cruel and they just dismiss it for that reason, or like they don't like it rather. And I don't blame them for it, because on some level it does feel a little cruel. And there are certain things that I want to talk about that I will in a different video that I do feel like maybe are a little bit cruel. But I think overall, generally speaking, I'm looking at the time and I think I kind of want to end this video here. But and I think I kind of run out of things to say about season 6. But like, I think ultimately season 6 to me, I loved it. I fucking loved it, because I love the conflict. I love the complexity of it. And I love how, because again, season 6 is bringing to the forefront a lot of things that were, they were not the focus before, but they were things that were definitely there. And I'm thinking about, okay, there was a specific point in time in which I said in my YouTube community tab, I said, guys, I think season 6 might be my favorite. And I want you guys to guess what episode I had watched that had me say that. You guessed it? Okay. You have an answer? You have an answer? Okay. The episode that made me say that was the wedding episode. It was the episode in which Xander left Anya at the altar. I finished watching that episode and I was like, I think season 6 might be my favorite. And that sounds crazy for some of you, I'm sure. But to me, the reason why I really liked it is because I don't give a fuck about Xander. But we spent 5 whole seasons and a half watching these characters, and there were enough bits of information that we have gotten about Xander and Xander's family, and the way Xander feels about himself, the way Xander feels about life and relationships. There was enough of that they were crumbs. They were little bits of information that were there. Maybe they were not there initially, but then they started piling up, that if you look at them, you can see the character of Xander that is beneath the surface. But if you're not paying attention to that, you don't see it. And so this comes as like a crazy thing that happens that is just cruel to Anya. But if you're actually looking at those bits of information, you can look at Xander and you're like, oh, I get exactly why he's doing this. I get exactly the way he feels. And of course he would end this way. Like, it makes perfect sense. But I understand that for so many people, you watch that episode, you'll be like, no, this is cruel. He sucks. And I'm like, I understand exactly why Xander is doing what he's doing. And I think it makes perfect sense. And I don't think it sucks. I think it's a perfect payoff to the character. And it sucks because Anya is getting hurt. And you might be thinking to yourself, like, how could you think about Xander when Anya just is going through so much right now? Anya is not real. She's a fictional character. And so is Xander, you know? And I feel bad for Anya, but ultimately she's not real. And I can give leeway to Xander because ultimately Xander's not real. So what I'm doing is that I'm looking at these characters and I'm looking at Xander and I'm looking at the history of Xander that we've seen over the years. And I'm like, this is great. This is perfect. This pays off to everything that we have seen of Xander in a way that feels so rewarding for actually looking deeper into what is going on with Xander and how he feels and what is going on with his family. It's so good. But I understand that you're hurt over the fact that we didn't have to have a happy wedding and our characters just hate each other now. And like, yeah, that sucks. It does. But I do think it makes for great storytelling because it pays off everything that I just said. Like, it's so good. So like, that's something that season 6 does, in that it doesn't hesitate to pull the trigger. Even with Willow too. Willow's drug addiction, I do feel like maybe going for the angle of drug addiction was a little bit, because Buffy loves doing the thing of like, you know, we're gonna do a real issue and we're gonna slap some supernatural stuff on top of it and then just call it a day. It's just an analog for something that's real. And the real analog for Willow is drug addiction, but I never saw it as drug addiction. I saw it as Willow's like weird, I don't know what to call it, narcissism? I don't think so. Or maybe this is too complex for the show to actually go into this direction, but the way I saw it is that like, the way I put it too, I'm remembering something I said on Patreon once. The way I put it, I think it was like Willow has like a tendency to just like shortcut everything in life. And magic has enabled her to do that. She has allowed her to just shortcut through everything. And that means everything. And that means that whenever there is complexity, whenever there's suffering, whenever there's pain, whenever there's any disagreement, Willow, rather than deal with the problem and get to a resolution for it, she's just like, I don't want to deal with the problem. So she just makes the problem go away. And that's what magic does. And I understand why you would make an analog with drugs, because that's what drugs do as well. You know, it's just like, I just want to deal, I don't want to deal with real life anymore. I don't want to think about it. So I'm just going to do this substance that makes me not think about it. Okay, I get it. I get how there is a line to be drawn there. I think it makes perfect sense. But I think that it may be the problem with Willow. I don't think it was ever magic, as in abuse of magic, substance abuse. I think the problem with Willow is that Willow would rather run away from problems than deal with them, and magic is secondary to that. But I think it still works. I don't think it's bad. I think it still works. And I would hope to see Willow evolve more going forward in season 7 in that direction. But I do think that it really pays off to the character of Willow as we've seen before. Because the character of Willow, as we've seen before, and I remember in season 5, like there was this thing of like, what was that? What was it? Like she gives Dawn like the bad book to bring someone back from the dead or whatever. And it's this thing of like, okay, like Willow, why is Willow doing those things? And then whenever Tara, like I think she also lied to Tara about like giving her the book or not giving her the book more specifically. I think that she lied to her. I don't remember exactly, but I think she did. And it's this thing of like, she doesn't care enough. So then she's like, well, why wouldn't she do it? You know, like, wouldn't it be better if she came back? Okay, I'm just gonna help her bring it back. You know, she can do it. So she's enabling things instead of dealing with the tragedy of grief. She's like, well, if she came back, it would be better, wouldn't it? So then she just doesn't care if she does that. And then when Tara asks and she lies to her, she's choosing the option that doesn't allow her to enter into conflict with Tara. She's just like, oh, it disappeared, weird, or whatever. Like she doesn't actually own up to what she did wrong because she doesn't see it as wrong, but also she doesn't want to enter into conflict. Because like, if you stood your ground and you said like, well, I don't see any problem with doing that, then that would be one thing. But actually avoiding your culpability from it because you don't want to have an argument, that's cowardly. And that is also what Willow is doing. She's taking the easy way out. And you can see, and I have met people like this, people who take the easy way out because they don't want to deal with conflict, because they're very conflict averse. So then they just take whatever the option is that won't have people yell at them. And that's not good for you. It really isn't. But what magic allows in Willow is the ability to have people not yell at you, even if they would have otherwise. Because you're not focusing on whether what you're doing is right or wrong. You're focusing on the fact that, well, if nobody yells at me, I don't feel bad about it. And that is the only thing that like limited me before, is the way I felt, the way other people made me feel about it. And that's that. Yeah, Willow is starting to look at it the wrong way, but it's a perfect evolution of what Willow has been ever since season 4, honestly. Like, not even 3, 4 is when she started going off the deep end, I think. So yeah, I think season 6 is great because it is paying off all of these elements of these characters that have been there before. And now we get to see how they explode and they become so exacerbated to the point in which they become a problem. Because guess what? That's life, you know? Is not as cartoonishly bad as season 6. I mean, for some people it probably is, but there was something I said once, and then I was like, I don't want to say that, because I said like, nobody's life is this bad, and then I immediately went like, actually no, like I know some people's lives are as bad as what we see them in the show, but I think having that happen so consistently so often is the part that makes me go like, that feels too much, to the point where it stops being so sad and it just makes me feel like a little bit upset because it's just too much, right? It makes me feel like a little out of it. And instead I'm looking at like the person who's writing the show being like, why are you doing this, man? What's going on? So that's ultimately how I feel about season 6. Even though my feelings overall are very positive because it is paying off on all these things that I mentioned that I feel are perfect for these characters. And because I like the complexity of it all. And yeah, season 6 is very good. I don't know if it would be my favorite season. Like I said, it probably depends on the day. Like some days I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be like, man, season 6 of Buffy was good shit. And then maybe other days I'm going to wake up and I'm going to say the same about season 3, you know? So it's probably something that's going to change every other day, but it's definitely on the top 3. For me, that's the pantheon. Season 3, 5, and 6. Those are my favorites right now. So yeah, I love season 6. I do have some reservations about it that it's just like a little bit too much. I also don't fault anyone for not liking this season. I think that's completely fine. I understand, because ultimately this season is going for something that maybe you didn't sign up for. And I don't think there's any shame for not liking a thing that you didn't sign up for. Because season 6 is just so different from everything else. So yeah, I think that season 6 overall, fantastic. I really like it. I don't think there's anything else I want to say in terms of my overall feelings on the overall season, but there's other things I want to say about individual episodes or characters. So I'm going to do that in a different video. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the BuffyCast Season 6. See you guys next time. Bye-bye. Take care.